Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. In today's video I'll show you how to create this multicolored flower using Copic markers. My flower is from the Floral Motif set by Altenew, and my die is from this woodland die by Simon Says Stamp. Now I'm going to cut the die first on some Neenah Solar White cardstock. I'm going to put my die on my cardstock and sandwich it between my acrylic plates, but I'm also going to add 2 Mylar shims. These are kind of plasticky films. They're pretty transparent, so you can see how thin they are. I bought them at Joann's online, and they just add a little bit of extra pressure because this die is really intricate. So just to make sure I got it all cut thoroughly all the way through, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, and then I'm going to run it through the Sizzix again using the Mylar shims, and that'll just make sure that I've really cut through all the different pieces. And you can see when you do it this way, the die cut just pulls right out. It falls right out. No need to even use a paper piercer to pop it. So anyway, this is the die that we're going to be using, and it's just white on white. Now with the remainder of my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch, I wanted to try to squeeze this flower in since I'm cutting it out. So I'm going to use my Misty and some Memento Black Tuxedo ink. And then I'll stamp it right down there, and I'm going to grab my absorber. I've had a lot of people asking questions about this. I just rinse it underwater, kind of getting it damp, wring it out, and then I use it for my entire stamping session, and it stays damp. There's also several stems in this set, so I matched one up with this flower, and I arranged it, and I used the Misty to stamp it right underneath the flower so that they connected. Okay, so here's how I'm going to do each petal, and each petal is going to be exactly the same. I'm taking Y11, which is a pale yellow, and I'm going to do the center portion of this petal. And now I'm going to take R81, which is my lightest pink, and I'm going to color on the edges of this petal and then also on the top. But first I'm going to do the edges all the way to the top, but I'm not going to go where the yellow is because I need to feather that into the yellow. I just cut off that excess there. It was getting in my way. And so I'm going to flick it upwards, which is why I turn my paper around. And I'm just going to do one layer, just carefully flicking upwards. And when you flick, the color gets lighter as you get into the yellow. It takes a little bit of practice. And then I'm going to take my R83, so this is my middle pink, and I'm going to add a little bit to the bottom, and I'm going to color up that line, that petal line, just a little bit. And then I'll go back with my R81 to just blend those 2 colors together. And then finally, I'm going to take R85 and I'm going to use that same flicking motion. I'm going to start at the base of the petal. I'm going to flick upwards. And when the pink mixes with the yellow, it becomes kind of an orangey color, and it's really pretty. So it really kind of creates this third color in the flower petal. And then just to add a little bit more detail, I'm going to outline just a little bit of this petal, not all of it, just some of it. And then that's R85, and then go back in with the R81 to blend that out just a little bit. So I did a lot of practice with all different colors on some scratch paper to see what technique and which colors worked best or looked best really with these flower petals. And this is the technique I came up with. And the colors I came up with, and so I just followed this technique exactly for every single flower. So I'm speeding this up here so you can watch, but I'm basically using the same technique I just used on all the different petals. So anyway, I will turn the music up and you can enjoy the coloring. Alright, now for those little leaves that are behind the flower, I'm using G28 and YG25, and I didn't do a whole lot of blending here because the area is so small. For the leaves in the stem under the flower, I'm going to do this section by section, and I didn't feel the need to get too much detail in here, so I just covered the whole thing with YG25, and then I highlighted some of the edges with G28. That's what I'm doing here. And then I went back in with the YG25 and blended it out. So I'm really just using these two colors, and I'm trying to keep it simple, working in sections to make sure it stays wet enough to blend, and not covering every area with the G28, and then carefully blending with the YG25. But notice I'm not coloring too much in the middle. I'm really just trying to stay on the area that's covered by the G28 and just do a little bit of coverage over what I've already colored with the YG25. So I'm just going to follow this technique throughout the whole stem. And there are dies that come with this set. I don't have them, so I went ahead and manually cut this out with a scissor. Now this is my card base, a standard A2 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I've got my grid sheet that I've printed out on acetate, and it's the same size as my card, so it makes it really easy to center things. So I'm going to figure out where my frame is going to be. I'm going to center it kind of in the top and leave a little extra space at the bottom so that I can put my sentiment there. And then I'll take my sentiment and figure out where I'm going to put that using my grid lines to make sure it's centered. And then I'll take my MISTI lid and close it and remove all the pieces except for the card base. And now my sentiment's going to go exactly where it needs to. And this is just some VersaFine black onyx ink. So I'm going to stamp this at the bottom here. And then I'm ready to put on my frame. Now I decided to use a two-way glue pen because you can get really precise application with your glue. It is a big frame, there's a lot of pieces, so I did it really quickly. I mean, I did speed it up, but I worked on it really quickly because I didn't want it to dry, because it does dry pretty fast. But I knew this would be the best glue for putting this frame on. So I went ahead and centered it and pressed it down, and it worked just fine. Now I took my paper piercer and I kind of picked it up before I had a chance to fully dry to make sure I had some space to tuck in my stem there at the bottom. So now I'm going to add some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. I'll take off the release backing on that. This is just some foam adhesive, and I'm going to put it right there in the middle of my frame. And that's the card for today. So it's pretty easy, very simple. I really wanted to keep the focus on the flower itself, which is why I made the rest of the card really simple. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.